Welcome to the Leading at the Next Level podcast with Dove Development and Consulting, the show built to provide ongoing support for your leadership journey. I've got one of my favorite opportunities that I think I've ever had to have a conversation today with a lady named Maria Martinez. Now, Cindy and I have known Maria for maybe close to 20 years. Matter of fact, I'll tell you behind the curtain, some of how the sausage is made, if you will, that Maria was one of the first people that ever babysat our oldest grandson, who, as we have this conversation today, he's now 17 years old. I'm not saying that to make me or Maria feel old, but I'm saying that to say that we've known her for that long. And she is just absolutely inspirational. We love seeing all the things she does. We're thrilled that she's a friend and we get to interact with her so much. And I'm just super excited to have her with us. Now, we're going to talk about a couple things. I've got a list of questions we're going to go through, but I'll tee it up a little bit to give you what we see. And it's just a fraction of all the great things Maria does. But we see Maria is a mom. Maria runs her own successful business, and she'll talk about that and what she does with MIM Community Solutions and how she helps small businesses tax prep and all the different other things that she does within that business, but also how she's in the process of launching a Latino business council. And we've just been thrilled to do that. Now, her older brother's father-in-law used to call me his only redneck friend, and he would refer to me as the gringo in the crowd and so on. And I'd learned a lot of Spanish when I spent that time with Gerardo years ago. But it's just so fun to watch, and we're excited to be able to partner with Maria on so many of those things. Now, Maria, will you give an appropriate overview of your professional background?
Well, I've actually been serving the community for over a decade now. I started as a certified medical interpreter, and that included interpreting at the hospitals, schools, a lot of different doctors' offices, as well as like therapies like CSB, McNulty Center with children. So it kind of just ranged all around. About 7 years ago, I became a tax preparer and now a certified acceptance agent. In 2022, I launched MIM Community Solutions, which is now my own business where I offer interpreting, tax preparation, and notary services. And like Wes had said, we're launching a Latino Business Council. That soft launched back in March. And we were actually under the umbrella of the Harrisonburg Chamber of Commerce. We have been growing so rapidly that we decided to separate and do our own nonprofit. So we are looking forward to that launch here in a few weeks, actually. And it's really exciting. Wes and Cindy have been there every step of the way. I think when I first talked to him, he was like, "Oh yeah, you can definitely do it." And I was like, "Okay, well, I'm glad you think so. Let's see how this goes." Yeah, so
that's really cool. I mean, we're so excited about all the different pieces and watching and so on. It had been several years since we got to interact closely. I get to see Juan, your brother, not frequently, but periodically, and just love him dearly. It's just so much fun to see all the things that he's done and actually talk about him, not by name, in one of the lessons in a course that we do, and just how amazing it's been to watch him over the last 20 years and all the things that he's lived into and the potential that he's exceeded even and so on. And you're doing the same things. Now, Maria, in my second book, the theme of that was really leading with clear purpose. And you were at the event that we did around that and so on. Talk to me a little bit about your purpose, what it was for you that you've continued to, you initially took, you said over a decade ago, you took that leadership responsibility that you've held, but you've continued to take on more and more and more. It's not because you're not busy. It's because something's driving you. What is that?
So my purpose is creating pathways, facilitating these barriers that a lot of people face daily. So as an interpreter, there's that language barrier. So me as an interpreter, I facilitate that interaction, that communication. And so just by providing knowledge and, different opportunities, even with the tax preparer, a lot of people don't know how taxes work. And so being able to guide them through that, every year and educate them, not just, receiving them and saying, "Okay, here, bring me your taxes and here you go. Go on with your day. This is how much you pay, or this is how much you're getting back." A lot of people, that's what they do. Drop off your stuff. Here's buy, pay me and buy. So I like to bring them in, have conversations, educate them. And with that, just, again, creating that pathway to having a better understanding and how everything works around here, because it's completely different than all these other cultures. So, even in Mexico, wherever, just South America and Central America is just completely different. So customs here are different, and being able to educate people, I think is what my purpose is.
That's outstanding. And we watch you do it in so many levels. I mean, to take it back to what you did with the interpretation initially and all the way through everything you're doing now, I see where that really fulfills you. I see, well, gosh, I got an email from you at like 3 a.m. a few days ago. And I'm thinking, dear God, does she ever sleep? And not much, right? But you fit those things in. But the purpose is what drives you, right?
Yeah.
And you said something that a lot of people from different countries may not understand, the tax and the way it works. Shit, I don't understand the way it works. And I'm going to be honest and say, I don't even want to. I think the government's corrupt, and all of them. So I appreciate that you're willing to say, here's how we're going to do this and how we can limit that liability. Here's how we can structure the right things and so on, because that's a huge value regardless of where you're from. I've lived within 20 miles of where I sat all of my life, and I still think it's nuts that we've got to go through all that. So praise God, you're willing to do that for anyone.
Yeah. And that's just the beginning, because I feel like with the taxes, it opened a whole door of, I got to meet, small business owners or people that even had ideas to grow a business or to become something here, create some type of roots. And so being able to, help them with every aspect of that, even though I didn't know it myself, I had questions myself. I didn't know where to go, where to look, until I found, resources and connections. And that's where I realized sometimes it's not about like what it's who that can teach you these things or do these things for you. And so, I didn't have any of this, and I speak the language. So imagine not speaking it.
Oh, 100% correct. I mean, I'm writing a book right now. It'll probably come out in 2027. It's called Leveraging Leadership Growth, and it's really about the strength through great professional relationships. And hey, you have an expertise that I pray I never have to understand. I'm thankful that you've got that expertise, but that's what Cindy and I've worked hard to do. And that's why we're so excited about partnering with you and the whole Latino Business Council, in that we can do some things that hopefully add some value to folks that maybe they don't have access to, and they don't need to. How can we help them? And vice versa. How do we have those great professional relationships that we're all stronger because of that, right?
Absolutely.
So with that in mind, with the background you shared, with the purpose, that being the foundation, share a little bit about who you've alluded to this, who you serve professionally, and what the two different organizations, both MIM Community Solutions and CEL, the Latino Business Council, who your target market is and the difference that you really want to make.
So through MIM Community Solutions, I think with both of them, I'm serving a lot of the Latino community, just because that's kind of what's gravitated to me as well. So a lot of the Latinos come to me, they ask for, advice, resources. But with MIM Community Solutions, I do provide services, tax services, notary work, and interpreting. I've gone out to Arlington to interpret for, refugee interviews, as well as citizenship interviews, and so just being able to do something like that to help people feel comfortable and included. And so that really drives me. So that's for MIM Community Solutions. And for CEL, again, I think CEL is more of, yes, we are the Latino businesses. That's kind of our, that's who we're grasping to. But it's more than that. We're trying to make bridges. We're trying to create these bridges, these resources, connections between the whole community. So just like the English-speaking community doesn't know how to outreach the Spanish-speaking community, it's the same way around. I feel like there's this kind of fear of approaching and talking, and it's unknown. So people don't feel comfortable. And so how can we make them feel comfortable? How can we connect those bridges and make everyone know that we're here to support each other, because honestly, since I've started this, I've received support that I never even imagined that I was going to get. The community, Harrisonburg-Rockingham, they support small businesses in a way that I don't know if any other place does this. And I've heard feedback from people that are not even from town that they're like, well, we don't have that, or we don't get that support. And so, being able to facilitate that connection, those resources, and being able to help Harrisonburg grow as a whole, I mean, economically and just, together. And hopefully this opens the door to other demographics to know that they also have support. I mean, we're all a very supportive community.
Yeah, I love that. And I'll stretch it even farther. I mean, as a podcast, we get to reach folks that aren't just in the area. A lot of the work, probably a half-ish of the work that Cindy and I do is in the Central Shenandoah Valley, but there's a lot that we do outside, and this podcast specifically is for that, to have that reach. And I would say that same footprint applies everywhere. I mean, I'm thankful that your team with Cell has been so welcoming to me and Cindy, and hablo un poquito español. But if there's a lot of noise around, Wes can't understand Espanol all that well because there's just noise. And that's one of those things that when you get old, you don't hear as well. And that's a whole different story. But I appreciate the patience and the welcoming. And I'm happy that we can be a part of helping bridge some of those gaps. I mean, I remember Gerardo 20 years ago says, hey, if I'm talking English and you don't understand me, that's your problem, buddy. I'm doing what I can. And that's kind of how I take it with Spanish. Hey, I'm trying.
Yeah. So. Yeah. And I think also listening, listening to each other and being able to understand different perspectives. Your perspective is not the same as mine. And one of our members that has no English background or anything has a different perspective than both of us. So yep. Being able to listen to what everyone feels comfortable with and being able to, connect and find a solution to how we can work together.
And that really leads to my next question, but I'll share this real quick. I mean, at the end of the day, the perspectives may be different, but all of us have one thing in common. We're trying to do well for the people around us and take care of our families in the process, right? Yeah. So with that being kind of teeing it up, what's one of the core values that you guys have either for your business or for Cell, and how do you make sure that you're modeling that? How do you make sure that anybody that interacts with you sees that consistently from you, whether that's with your team or in the community, the way you serve, that they're feeling it and they experience that in their interaction with you?
I would say one of our core values would be authentic service. So just every day I lead, it's with honesty, empathy, and intention. I try to be very intentional and honest, and this is what I feel. This is how I feel it. So it just comes naturally, and I feel like people can actually feel my enthusiasm, my my drive, and even my team. I'm very grateful for them, and I think they see it, and they also try to model that as well. So I think if people feel that we genuinely care about them, and we do that with everything we do, whether it's workshops or networking night, we're very, how can we help you? How can we do better? Because ultimately we're doing this for them. We're not doing it for us. We're doing it to create a strong foundation, and we're not going to be able to do that without our members, without you guys, without the community's help, because we don't, ultimately we're being built by you guys.
Yeah. So with that in mind, this is a unique question because you started your own business and you've been instrumental in Cell and launching that. Explain how you've been really intentional to make sure the organizational values that you're working through in either of those two entities really align with your personal values.
So we at least with my team and everything, we talk about it a lot. And I know that sometimes first of all, this is all volunteer work. This is a nonprofit, so none of us are getting paid for this. So we have to have some type of drive. We have to have some type of values that we have in place. And again, like I said, authentic service, and just being able to help people grow, helping people succeed, and and what helps me is rewarding to see people, let's say something that I take for granted, like being able to Zoom call you. This wasn't the easiest start, but we started a little late. But overall, it's usually something simple, and being able to teach someone how to do that brings so much, joy to me, because I'm like, wow, like I was able to do this for this person. And so, in my life, I feel like with my children, I want to teach them, to be these great people. I've met a lot of crappy people in my life, as there's crappy people, negativity, people that, sometimes don't want to see you thrive, that don't want to, that kind of suck that inspiration out of you, that potential out of you. And so for me, I want my children to see that it's not negative. It's what you make it. And so I try to be as positive as I can, even on my busy days, even when I feel like I can't anymore. It's having that positive mindset of, this is what I'm teaching my kids. If I teach them positivity, to find the good things in the hard days is just incredible for me. And they're going to see it, and they're going to see their potential in a positive way. Even when someone tries to drain them, they're going to be like, no, if this goes wrong, we can find a solution to do something else. And so just finding solutions to, everyday things that we deal with.
Yeah. I'm asking these questions in a theme around values, because the newest book that I've got, it's scheduled to come out in early 2026, is going to be called The Values Advantage. And it really is a case study on how I've seen core values really change a culture of an organization, how I've seen a tangible impact, and how I've seen a lot of other organizations that we've worked with really become stronger and stronger and stronger around those core values. And Maria, you just said, hey, I think it attracts good people. We want to do things because it matters to us. And that really goes back to leading with clear purpose, right? When I talked about, we don't avoid things because they're hard. We avoid things because it doesn't fulfill us, if the fulfillment's not there. Yeah. And so many of the things that you just said about providing that example for your kids, that's so critical. Keeping the negative out, that's so critical, because there's a whole bunch of stupid people out there. And if you want, wherever you're accessing this, if you want to put the names of those stupid people in the chat, you're welcome to, and you'll get a bunch of hearts and likes and so on. But the reality is, how do we stay away from that crap? But how do we, most importantly, have that purpose that drives us and really intentionally stick behind our values? Now, you guys are doing that both in your regular everyday business, but in the Latino Business Council, you're doing both of those things. Talk to me about an example of a project, a campaign, whatever that may be, that either you or your team together has spearheaded, and what's the impact you've seen to date on the community that you serve through that process?
Okay. So the project we have now is our official launch, the cell launch. And that is coming up September 28th. And it has been, I would say, one of the hardest things I've had to do in my career. It's just our team. And like I said, none of us are getting paid for this. So there's some days where I'm like, is this really worth it? Is this really worth it? So I go for an extra long run on those days. But this launch is going to make I feel a big impact. Maybe I'm delusional and thinking that it's going to make a big impact, but honestly, I feel it. I feel it in my core. I feel it in the way that we've been supported. I feel it by the support that I've gotten from my team and how driven they are as well. And even by our members, they're extremely excited about what's coming, and they're very grateful with everything we've already provided till this day. And this is honestly with no funding up until we started now, trying to get these sponsors, and we were able to provide this even without it. Mm-hmm. And so this launch, we're going to bring together businesses, families, students, local leaders, just to celebrate culture, community strength. We're going to have like a job fair, as well as like a showcase, something fun for your family, just run, and the Children's Museum will be there. And so it's a community event, but more than anything, especially with the social climate right now, is we're showing support. We're showing support for all these hard working individuals that have come to this country with absolutely no knowledge of the English language, and they made something of themselves. Through those barriers, they broke down those walls and they did what they needed to do to survive. And so we're here to support them and to show them that, ultimately we want to succeed as a whole. I mean, we're here to support each other.
I love that so much, because let me be honest, there's a whole lot of fat, lazy people that were born here and take for granted some of those opportunities and aren't doing anything with it to help themselves or anybody else. And it obviously pisses me off in the process. But so happy we can be part of that and help bridge those gaps, because that's who we want to be around, is people that are willing to work for it, make a difference for the people around them.
Oh, and
Marie, you've talked about your core values. You've said it several different times. What drives you to, on top of everything else that you do, to make sure that you're investing your time and your energy and sometimes even your personal finances, when you've got a lot of other things that are jockeying for position with that, to make sure that you're continually focusing on your own personal leadership growth?
So with my own personal leadership growth, I have had no knowledge on nonprofits. I will be completely honest. I came into this just knowing that I had this vision, that I knew what I wanted to do. And so the steps that I have taken up until this day, I have learned more in this past year than I have, I think, in my entire life. And a lot of that is thanks to you and Cindy. It started with the leadership course you guys invited me to, the leadership training you invited me to. I was able to learn more about myself in those hours than I did in years. And I was struggling to figure out how I was doing things, my purpose, what values. And so being able to actually sit back and have to self-reflect on what is it that really drives me, taking a step back and thinking about these things and, doing the work and the homework and how I want to, be a leader again. And knowing my own personal, I'm at DC, so it's a little bit difficult. So I have to learn on, having to learn to deal with the weaknesses you have, and having to now, if I take that test again, I guarantee it's not going to be the same, because I've worked on having to balance all of it, because I know that it's all important and having different perspective on it.
So that can be a sidebar conversation we can have, but I'll say real quick, in completing the assessment, I would bet it's going to be very, very similar, but the difference isn't who you are. The difference is how you've learned how to adapt to who you're working with, how you've taken that knowledge of who you are and how you can do it. And that's one of our favorite things that we get to do, is to help people understand there's nothing wrong with who you are. You know me, I'm a really high, I say DIC blend, no pun intended, if you will, but under stress, I'm all D all the time, fast paced. Let's get stuff done. I don't care who we run over in the process, but that's not okay.
That's me.
Sure I've got to be mature enough to show that patience for the folks that are kind and soft-spoken and get overwhelmed by conflict. And I just need to not be that DIC, right? Pun intended again. So it's knowing, and we've loved watching you do that, Maria. It's been so much fun. It's been a blessing in our life. I think the last question I'll tee up, I'm going to skip one that I had on the list just because it's not quite there, and you can touch on it if you want yourself, but you do this a lot, but what advice would you make sure that you're giving to somebody that I don't want to use the term young, because it's not about age, but maybe isn't quite as versed in leadership, or they're not where they want to be in their career and they want to take on more responsibility? What advice would you give them to grow and chase after success in their own roles?
First is lose the fear. Lose the fear. That had been very hard with me, is losing the fear to step forward and to take these sacrifices and these, you're going to have to make sacrifices. And when you're trying to become better, it's going to take things away from you. And you have to not be afraid of that, because what's coming is better. And just keep moving forward, because, no one's perfect. You may, have a stop here, a bump on the road. And as long as you're trying to be better every day, even if it's a little by little, as long as you're intentional with where you're going and you continue that goal to get where you're going to get, it doesn't matter how long it takes you. As long as you're doing it on your own pace and what makes you feel comfortable, what makes you feel happy, and what doesn't burn you out. I think just continue moving forward, stepping forward. Don't step back, don't stop. Just, even if it's a little bit, even if it's one little thing that you do today and tomorrow you do 6, but as long as you do something. So just being consistent with your work and how intentional you are with where you want to get.
You said a word that I want to build off of. You said, don't let it burn you out. And in Leading with Clear Purpose, I talk about the importance of not work-life balance. I think that's an illusion. Matter of fact, I heard John Maxwell say 10 years ago that it was an illusion. He laughed at somebody when he said, how do you balance your life? And John said, that's stupid. You can't balance it. You need harmony. And I think, hey, we're going to work hard regardless of where we're at. If we want to take care of our families, we want to have any level of success in our lives, it's going to involve hard work. The part that in that chapter on work-life harmony, Maria, I touch on how do we make sure that whatever we're doing to work hard in, it feeds that purpose that matters to us, and we're still getting that fulfillment. Life's hard. It is what it is, right? But if we're fulfilled, who cares how hard it is? I love what I do.
Yeah.
So, and it's tough. There's a lot of people in a lot of roles that don't get to do that, but that's where I believe it's their leaders, it's the owners of their companies, it's their direct supervisors. It's that leadership responsibility to help them connect those dots, to help them draw purpose from that. And hey, if you're not getting that in your job and you're hearing this, well, maybe you don't have a good leader and you can find a good leader, or maybe they just need to understand how they can do that. So anyway, we can have that deeper conversation. I want to touch on one more thing before I open it up for you to share anything. You mentioned how you feel that it's going to make a great impact. And the answer is the cell launch, the event that you're working for in just a few weeks here locally, it's going to be amazing. But I'm going to challenge you, don't ever judge it. And this can be for anybody that's listening into our conversation we're having with one another. Don't ever judge it based on the numbers in that moment. Because I think back just a few months ago, as we're having this conversation, Cindy and I did an event that we made a list a mile long of here's things we could do different. Here's things we could do better. Here's how we need to tweak this. We need to tweak that. Because we knew how much more potential it had than what we accomplished in that one thing. But it was 50% bigger than anything we'd ever done. And I look back 10 years prior for the very first thing that we done, and it was almost 10 times bigger than that, Maria. But if we wouldn't have done that very first one 10 years ago, we wouldn't have done the second one or the third or the fourth, and it wouldn't have grown in the process. So I assure you, it's going to make a tremendous impact, but it won't make as much impact as the next thing that you do, or the next thing you do, because all of it builds off one another.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing to watch the energy, the heart, the compassion that I see you and your team put into it. And we just love the friendships that we're building in the process. Now, all that said, before I wrap this up, what have I not asked you that you want to make sure that you share? Again, I've got links to the cell page. I've got links to your MIM Community Solutions page in the show notes. I think I've even got something, or we can put it in the comments about the event. So there's some information. I know it's on the cell website, the event, but what have I not asked you that you want to make sure that we share?
I'm not sure if there's anything I could think of off the top of my head. Nothing. I would just like to say that you have made a huge impact on us, on the cell team. Everything we do, everything we have done so far has been, you guys kind of set a structure or a foundation on leadership that we have taken back. The opportunities you have given me, which I am extremely grateful for. I don't even know how to give back on that. I take it back to my team, and my team has soaked it all in. I sometimes ask them, like, I don't know why you guys are still here. all this work that I have you guys do, or that we all do, that we all do together, it's a lot. And I know sometimes I feel very overwhelmed, and just knowing, they tell me, they're like, well, we see you do this and this and this and this and this, and still add this, and you still continue to do it with a smile on your face or with a positive attitude. And if something goes wrong, we know that you're not just going to be like, oh man, well, I guess we're going to have to stop. Or no, they're like, no, we give you a problem and you're like, okay, I have 5 different solutions. Mm-hmm. Pick your best one. They go from impulsive to very thought out. So, and thanks to you guys, I wouldn't be able to, I guess, connect the way I connect with my team, understand certain things with them. And, sometimes they get overworked or overwhelmed. That's okay. Take a step back. We will step in. So we really help each other out when one of us needs to take, a step back because they're overwhelmed or busy at work. All of us step in to take over that role, and, vice versa. And I know that one day, maybe I won't be available to do everything, and we're all on the same page. Mm-hmm. Every single one of us know everything that's going on, with notes and just communication. We are all open to give feedback to each other without taking it personal. So we're able to give criticism. We're able to take these different perspectives. And I feel like I wouldn't have been able to understand that to the full capacity if it wasn't for your training. It's really helped me lay a really good foundation for my team. And going forward with my business, getting employees, this has been kind of like a training for that. So when I do have employees, I will be more knowledgeable on it. So, yeah.
Well, here's the quick answer. You said you're not sure how you ever you could pay us back or so. You did. You just did in saying that, because that's something that I don't want to say struggle with, but I felt that burden on me for a long time, because I've been blessed with a lot of good people. I don't have much education. I'm a hillbilly. I'm a country boy that just
you're smarter than you think. Just because it's not book smart doesn't mean it's not smart. You're very intelligent.
But that's been a barrier for me, right? And I've had some amazing mentors, and the way I felt like I still feel today a huge obligation. And that's the whole purpose with that new book that I'm writing for 2027, is to really say, here's what I've learned from these amazing mentors, and here's how those relationships have helped me, and they'll help you too if you listen. But what I feel the obligation that's heavy is, how do I continue to pay it forward? Because I heard it from them. And if it wouldn't have been for that one person that taught me that one lesson, who knows where I'd be. So I feel like that's kind of my responsibility to pay it forward. So that's your responsibility, is how do you pay it forward? And you are. And that's why your team's rallying around you, Maria. We see it. We watch it happening in real time. That's why it's there. And that's why, as you build a team around you in your business too, it all ties back. It's just fantastic. Now, I'm going to do a quick commercial. I wasn't going to, but I'm going to say the whole infrastructure of the Leadership Legacy Experience in 2026 is based around the event we've got coming up called an Executive Summit that I'll talk with you after this conversation about. But with the Executive Summit, it's for mid-level managers to business owners. That's really focused on how are you being that example for the simple practices, the sustainable expectations, and all the different pieces, that the consistent example in those values around your business. But in 2026 at JMU's Atlantic Union Bank Center, we're doing a second Leadership Legacy Experience, and we're anticipating 500, 600, 700 people there. And the whole purpose is, how do we take those values out to everybody on our team? So there's a quick commercial for that. The values that we've got in organizations, how do we live them? How do we breathe them? How do we do them? And how do we serve people through them? Now, Maria, anything else you want to add before I close this?
No. Okay. Thank you. Just thank you for the opportunity. And, I will give back as much as you give back. And you've started a ripple effect, because everyone that is, touched by us, talked to by us, some type have mentorship by us, they're all coming from you, from the knowledge you've given us, and the foundation you've given us. And so just know that as much as Cell grows, it's going to have you right at the heart of it.
Well, even with my poor Spanish and bad pronunciation, I'm just happy to be there. So I always close this. We do this as the Leading at the Next Level podcast. We always appreciate folks tuning in, whether it's live or through the podcast, whenever you're accessing it. I do say that Cindy and I, over the last several years, we've built a full program around the Leading at the Next Level idea. And it really started in late 2018. Today, there's, close to 170 individual lessons in the digital library. And we're building that out a little bit more and doing some neat stuff with it off to the side. But the offer I'll share is if you need continuing education credit as you hear this, specifically in the HR community with SHRM and HRCI, because that's the credential I hold, and we're approved providers there, reach out to us. Send us an email at admin@dove-development.net. We'll be happy to hook you up with a 45-day all-access trial where you can get the continuing education credits. But more importantly, you've got access to that library, the live sessions that we do, and so on and so forth, that we can hopefully sew into your leadership culture and help give you those tools that help you as well. Maria, You're amazing. You're a blessing in our life. Cindy and I appreciate you so much. Thank you for taking the time to do this.
Thank you.